So we'll start out with a song. Na 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 na. Na 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 Just one more time. Feel your breath, feel your sound. Whatever the sound that comes out of us is, we're a sound box. We're our own cathedral. Inside of us there's a whole way of allowing, projecting our sound, but it's not even coming just through our throat. It's coming from inside of us, and therefore it's a kind of a power that we some of us hardly even know how to access. But when you do access it and you come to your sound, they say that the angels, when they sing every morning, it's not like it's, besides that it's pretty songs, but the songs of the angels are the vibration and frequency that they were created at, and then when they sing, they amplify themselves up to that vibrational frequency, and they connect to their source, their origin, and it just gives them incredible life. So that's really what song was meant to be. And then you sound, and you continue. You're aware of yourself being the one who's making the sound. You're inside yourself. The projecting of the sound is less important. It's the fact that you're making sound. It doesn't have to be loud. Na 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 So this class is about sounding and breathing. And the page that you have there, I don't know if everybody has one, but if you don't, share with somebody else. So we started last week with the 3 top lines. Is what we say when we go to sleep and what we say when we wake up in the morning. And to have an intention when you say these things that your soul should fly and be able to rise up and become elevated in the higher worlds. This is our birthright. This is who we are. We're not aware of it. Does the fact that we're not aware of it make it that it mean that means that it doesn't happen? You can't be sure. Dreams are very deceiving because we only remember the bottom part, the last part, the most confusing parts of our dreams. Sometimes we have vivid dreams, which are a little bit above that. But the higher parts, we're completely, most of us are not even aware that we have these other kind of dreams, which are real experiences up in the higher worlds. But it is a tradition by us that we actually do. So start believing in it. Start knowing that your soul does go up, and that when you come back in the morning, you're coming back into your vessel, and you are the one who's coming back into your vessel, into the conscious being that you are, and therefore the two of you together are really one. But then again, the whole reason for going up and at night, and then also in meditation, in waking states, is to go up in order to connect to the higher souls and the higher levels to which we are connected, in order to come back down with more of that each time. So going up before we go to sleep is the same thing, but it's similar to going up into a meditative state, into an intensely concentrated or directed intention to be able to open ourselves up to what's going on upstairs, to receive, and then to come back with that into our lives. So below, on the lower part of this whole page 1 here, is Isaiah chapter 6, verses 1 to 6, which is like the in terms of inner space, in terms of Rabbi Kaplan and what he was writing in the whole second section of inner space, which is what we're learning, which is about the prophecy and the whole issue of what prophecy was. It wasn't just, it was just a little part of it was telling the future. Much more of it was what's called the avodat nevuah, the work, the inner work that the Nevi'im did, which is the connection to their higher soul. And that's still applicable today, even if we don't have prophets going around telling us what's going on and what's going to happen in the future. But we have the avoda, the inner work of the prophets. And they left over a number of trails for us to follow and caves for us to enter. And then from one cave, you go to the next, and they say, well, how do I get to the next cave? And they say, we can't tell you. You'll get there. And you get to the next cave and say, oh my goodness, I don't know how I got here, but it's so important. Each cave, you learn something more. You open up to more of the map of God's consciousness. And then they send you on to the next cave until you start to get an idea that this consciousness that we're talking about is the consciousness that we are actually just little pieces of this higher consciousness. And that we live in this world, most of us totally unconscious of that. So there's a reason to look into Isaiah here, which is then going to become a preparation for us to look into Yechezkel, Ezekiel, who came later and who was even more explicit about his own experience of prophecy. And then before we do it, on the back of this page, it's a one-pager with 2 sides, is a kind of an interesting thing that I did a few years ago, and I felt that it would be important to share with you. And in general, it's going to be about sharpening our perception. How shall I say it? I don't know how to say it. So, well, when we get there, okay? Please forgive me. Let's just look at it now in terms of the first page. So, I'll read it in English. The Hebrew is, again, the basis for a lot of what we do in our prayers. It comes into our prayers, especially verse 3, it appears a number of times and in specific places. But even though it only appears a number of times in specific places, we shouldn't think that it's only for those places. It really sets the tone of what prayer is for us. I mean to say that a shul, a synagogue, a bet knesset, is a level of consciousness called ima, mother. And when we enter into bet knesset, we're entering into a place where you could call the kindergarten of our souls. When we were all together with in our mother before we were born, physically is a metaphor for when we were all together, our souls were all together above, and we had not become developed independent individuals yet. It was prior to that, right? And we were in our developmental stages. And then as we came down, we lost contact, or we lost conscious contact with that level. And the whole prayer system is in order to reestablish contact with that and to be able to draw on that into our lives. So when we go to shul, and certainly the Beit HaMikdash, which was the mother of all that, so we're going into a place where when we were there before, we were unconscious. But now we're going back as conscious beings in order to reconnect with that and get even more consciousness, and also get connected to the collective consciousness or the group consciousnesses to which we belong. And then when we come out with a much more powerful sense of our mission in this world, because we're connected to a group where we have a backing. And then we go out, and then we come back, and we go out, and we come back, and we get stronger every time. Why that's not happening nowadays, why shul isn't as powerful as it should be, don't ask me. It just apparently has to be that we have to revive this Torah, this teaching, and make it so. The idea itself is a powerful, infinite feedback loop. The closer you get to your soul group, and we can talk about soul groups, the more powerful your own individual mission is. And the more powerful your own individual is, the more you can bring back into the soul group. And then the more you bring back into the soul group, the more powerful the soul group becomes. That's what it should be like.
People daven in their home have the same effect as if they went daven in the mikdash.
Where does it say this?
No, it's not.
It says you can daven at home and have the same effect.
There were
back then?
people that couldn't make it to the
Okay.
daven at home. They'd have the same effect as if they were davening.
Okay, so
This is what we're talking about.
that's even today. I mean, we are advised, men especially, to go to shul and to be part of something, right? But what if sometimes you can't. So when those times when you can't might sometimes be those best times when you can really daven the way you need to daven and want to daven. And so you shouldn't ever feel guilty about it. Go back to the other minyan, make that your mainstay, because we're connected to others, and it's an important thing. But being alone is an absolute necessity in our lives also. So work out a way that you can live in this world and be a Jew and be connected to our communities and be connected to each other and have a deep connection with God. In my books, I go through how the concept of the 5 levels of the soul, and in my books, and the books that I've been able to write about these issues, and about the lower levels of the soul are more and more and more individual, and this is me, and I'm separate from you. The higher levels are the more sharing. The levels of Ruach, and then Neshama above that, and then Chaya, which is the collective consciousness. Again, the idea of groups is that we are a part of our own particular group, and that group as an entity is part of other groups, and they also form one entity, and that goes higher and higher. It's a pyramidal structure, just like when Jethro introduced the whole idea of masters of the 10, masters of the 50, masters of the 100, masters of the thousands. So that's a pyramidal structure where every 10 has a leader, and every one of those leaders of those 10 become part of the higher level and of the higher level. And then it's always that anybody can have a chance to become a leader, and you just have to, right? You have to exhibit the desire to be connected to the higher level of your own soul. So it's a social structure that mirrors a spiritual structure of who we are, but it all goes up to oneness. That we're all part of one great oversoul. But that the Creator wants children. That's why the first mitzvah in the Torah is have children, because even though on the surface multiplicity contradicts unity, but at a deeper level, when it'll be revealed that all the multiplicity itself in its magnificent variations is all part of one great oneness, it's a greater revelation of oneness than if oneness had always been oneness. All right. Now, what does Isaiah say? In the year of King Uzziah's, you have to share. I know. In the year of King Isaiah's death, Uzziyahu, I, Yeshayahu, Uzziyahu means that God is my strength. Uzi is my strength. That's why every rifle is called an Uzi. But Yeshayahu, Yesha is Yud Shin Ayin, is salvation. So Yah, or Yahu, is my salvation. Chezkiyahu, Hashem is my strength, just like similar to Uzziyahu. Yechezkel, El is my chizuk, is my strength. All the names are like this. So I saw a prophetic vision of Hashem as a king sitting upon a high and lofty throne in the heavenly temple. While its lowest extremity, the throne, filled the sanctuary of the temple below. And then in Targum Yonatan, which is a very important text that we have, it says, the radiance of his glory filled the sanctuary of the earthly temple. So one of the first things we learned around 3 months ago was to imagine yourself in the heavenly temple, and then to look down upon yourself as if you're in the earthly temple, even though there's no temple, there's no physical temple right now. Is that our tradition took and internalized this whole thing, that the whole universe is a divine temple, right? And that down here in this world we can build a temple, and that temple is a blueprint for the entire universe, and that each one of us is also a miniature blueprint, and that the entirety of Israel is a temple, and the entirety of mankind is a temple, the whole world is at every level you want. We are a temple for God. So, but the point here is that I had a vision of the higher temple, and I saw that the radiance of Hashem's glory went all the way down into the lower temple. Seraphim were stationed above the throne. Rashi says, fiery angels stood before him to serve him, ready to fulfill his command. Seraphim is from the word Lisrof, to burn. So they're burning angels, fiery angels. It's obviously not physical fire. It's basically light, beings of light. Each had 6 wings, 2 to cover its face. Rashi says, so as not to gaze at the divine presence above them, because gazing at that which is above you is a very I wouldn't say dangerous, but it has to be done with circumspection. It has to be done only at the right time and when permission is given. Otherwise, one does not look at just it's something there in our tradition about don't just gaze at things. Don't make them into objects. Go inside and feel the presence of something. And when the permission is given, then you'll be able to see it, but you won't be taken by its external thing. So there's something in our tradition about the dangers of gazing. At any rate, the angels use 2 of their wings to cover their faces. They cover 2 of their legs, so as not to be fully revealed to the level below them. Interesting. And they use 2 of them with which to fly. And then verse 3, which is literally bodily taken, and we say it in our prayers. And they called to one another, saying, Holy, 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 which means above, 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 beyond, beyond, beyond. Beyond anything that we can imagine is Hashem, the God of all the hosts of heaven and earth. The fullness of the whole world is his glory. There's a lot here. Before we even go to Yonatan ben Uziel, which is in the small print, the word for God here is Hashem, Yud-Ke Vav-Ke, as opposed to I saw a prophetic vision of Hashem as a king sitting upon a high and lofty throne. That's Aleph Dalet Nun Yud. So there's the names that are used here, like there are nuances here that are important. He does not see Yud-Ke Vav-Ke. He sees Aleph Dalet Nun Yud. What does that mean? And I saw a vision of. I did not see God. God cannot be seen. But God allows us to perceive him in ways that are understandable to us. So he was seeing a vision, the highest vision that he was permitted to see of an image of a temple and of a king sitting on a throne. Let's get it for a second.
Aleph Dalet Nun Yud is which?
Al Danyud is associated with the lowest sphere called Malchut, which is the Hashem's kingship, literally. And it's gematria 65. Aleph Dalet Nun Yud is 1 and 4 is 5, and Nun is 50. That's 55. Plus 10 is 65. And it's the gematria of the word heichal, palace or sanctuary. And there's a verse that says, Adonai beheichal kodsho, that Hashem, Yud-Ke Vav-Ke, is dwelling in the palace, the sanctuary of his holiness. So when we're given a verse like that, so the name of Hashem and the gematrias and all that give us that Hashem, who is beyond anything, allows us to perceive him within lower and lower forms. So we shouldn't mistake the forms, but we also are protected by the forms that he allows us to see him in and to perceive him in, and to recognize his presence in our lives, to the fact that he comes down and he manifests himself in the events of our lives.
Is there anywhere else in Tanakh where there's there's like always like Avram, Abraham, or is there ever, it says for here, is there ever any like a triple formula? It's Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh.
Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh.
Is there anyone else, any other word that's in triplicate?
That's a great question.
You're saying this like it connotes like beyond anything.
Beyond, and beyond. means I open up and I release Hashem. For us, it means I release you from anything I think I know about you. Hashem's Kedusha, his complete and absolute transcendence, allows him to be everywhere. In a sense, the picture that I would draw for this, I don't have a blank piece of paper for some reason today. I'll do it on a little one. I'll do it. Thank you. I would do it. It's simplistic, but the idea is the first kadosh is here. It takes us up only so high, and it only goes down so low. The second kadosh takes us up even higher and goes down even further. The third one goes up highest, and comes down lowest. The concept of kadosh is transcendence, is complete disconnection, allows the infinite one to be more connected to even that which is
Basist.
Yeah, the basist. So there's something here, and apparently I just have to leave it at this for the moment. We'll come back to it, okay? But the kadosh in your mind, kadosh, and kadosh, all the way down. In a sense, the verse itself is amazing because it says everything in one verse. It's kadosh, kadosh, kadosh. Hashem Sevaot, Hashem, you are the Lord, the God of all the hosts. Meloch ha'aretz kivodo, your glory fills the entire world. So it's all the way up. It's a movement, it's a dynamical, energetic movement. You come back down and you internalize in Hashem Sevaot, and then you move down into the world. The world is filled with actually we say here, the fullness of the world is His glory. I'll explain in a minute. Then, though, relative to the next verse that we say in the Kedusha, which is from Ezekiel, is Baruch Kevod Hashem B'Mkomo. So Baruch, the word Baruch always means to draw down and to internalize. So relative to Kadosh, holy, 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 Baruch is to bring down. So Kadosh is all up, and Baruch is bringing down. And then Yimloch, which is from Psalms, is that Hashem's sovereignty will be revealed everywhere, and the entire world will be transformed, is all the way down. So each verse, the verse in itself, the verse relative to each other, Kadosh takes you up, Baruch brings you to the middle to internalize in your heart center, and Yimloch, which is Hashem, your sovereignty will be revealed everywhere, all the way down. So that third verse is the one that takes us all the way down. But then if you go up into Kadosh itself, the Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh takes you up. The Hashem Savot brings you to your heart center, and Meloch ha'aretz kivodo. And then if you go Kadosh, the second Kadosh is down here, and the third Kadosh is the entire world. So there's a lot of different motions happening at the same time. In Shema Yisrael, you can see also, if you see the Shema Yisrael in relation to the entire Shema Yisrael, the 3 paragraphs, it has a certain meaning. But then inside Shema Yisrael itself is the entire thing from top to bottom. So you see, it's a little bit hard to describe. Please forgive me for being a little bit abstract, but it's all about going up and coming down, going up and coming down, until there's no more need to go up and come down. It is all completely unified. It's also the secret of Hashem, Hu HaElokim. Hashem, the infinite one, is the one who hides and manifests within this world, within the garments of a world of nature and laws of nature, until you go up and down enough times in your mind and understand, oh my goodness, it's not just up there. It's that everything, Hashem, Hu HaElokim, He is the one who is Elokim. He is the one who's behind everything. So the prophetic teachings, right, have to have some effect on us. So they incorporated them into the prayers. And they said, hello, the prayers are based on prophecy. If it's too scary to you and you're a rationalist, so just daven every day for 20 minutes or 15 and leave shul and go to work. But if you really want to appreciate it, like take an hour and a half, and then your whole life will be changed, because you'll see that the main work of our existence is connection to above. Please, let's do all of us together in this amazing moment, right, of remembering those who are above and connecting to them. And I'm going to share with you something after it's done that really will be them speaking to us. Yom HaZikaron. Shema Yisrael. Adonai. Adonai. So just a little bit more about holy, 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 okay? With Hashem's help. And check out the small print after the verse. It is a translation of Yonatan ben Uziel, that we say when we say what's called Uva Letzion after the davening, on the way down from the Shemona Esrei, after the repetition of the Amidah, and then we say Ashrei, and then we say Uva Letzion, and we say this verse and its Aramaic translation. They each receive life force, the angels, from the other. Each receives from the one above and transmits to the one below. We mentioned before that they cover their eyes in order not to look above, and they cover their feet not to be seen by that which is below. So, but there is a transmitting system going on here. That life force gets transmitted by way of the angels, the angelic beings of each dimension. So that's just like in the background here, but it's yeah.
Was it that, because I know you talk about bowing is to receive and not to pour down, but was it that they didn't want to be seen from below, or that they wanted to be contained, so they didn't want to receive, nor do they want to give with the wings?
No, giving and receiving
is not be seen from below.
Giving and receiving is based on the little that I know, right? Not to get too deeply into it, but that the image that's been given to me, it's in the Tzamet Tzedek, in the mitzvah of Brit Milah, page 5b, right? It's a very important source, is that the angels bow. It's a verse that we say from the book of Nehemiah. We say it in our davening, in Vaybarech David. If you can just give me a sitter, back of any sitter behind you. Any sitter. Okay. Hi, everybody. Just to answer the question, but it's really part of it. So in Vaybarech David, which comes after Psalm 150, we say these 5 last Psalms of the book of Tehillim, and then we stand up and we say the words of King David at the end of his life, just before he dies, and where he sums up what he did in Tehillim. So it's very, very beautiful stuff. And at one point we say, Ve'ata Eloheinu, and you are our God. Ve'ata Eloheinu, and you, God, Modim anachnu lach, we thank you. Umihalalim l'shem tifatecha, and we're praising the revelation, the name or the revelation of your splendor. V'barechu shem kevodecha. It switches into another form of speech and says, and they, going into the angels, they're blessing your glory. Now, glory is also always relative to a source of light. Glory is radiance, is the ray of light, the illumination that comes down. The reason that it always has to be a measured form of the light that comes down to the next level is to not hurt the next level down. And then it gets measured each time for each dimension it comes down. So we'll see that in a second why. We bless your glory, but you yourself are above any blessing or any praise. Atahu Adonai levadecha. You, Hashem, are alone, are the infinite one. Ata asita et hashamayim, shemei hashamayim. You made the heavens and the heavens of the heavens. V'chol tzvaam and all of their hosts. Haaretz v'chol asher aleha. The earth and all that is upon it. Hayamim v'chol asher behem. The seas and all that they contain. Ve'ata mechayeh et kulam. And you give life, you enliven all of them. Utzva shamayim l'chamish tahavim. And the hosts of the heavens bow and prostrate themselves before you. So the Tzemach Tzedek points out the connection between bowing, utzva shamayim l'chamish tahavim, that they bow down to you and prostrate themselves before you, and ve'ata mechayed kulam, the first part of the verse, and you give life to them all. Is that he switches it around. He says the moment they bow down is when they receive their life force. Because bowing down is actually giving to the next level, lower down below them. And at that moment, when they empty themselves and give to that level below them, is when they receive theirs. It's the secret of becoming a giver. That's one thing he says. And then he adds that that's the moment that they sing. But anyway, the point is that the thing about the covering of the feet is not to shine the full force of the electrical power of their higher level to the lower level. Rather, it has to come through a bowing, which is somehow diminishing it enough and tailoring it down enough so that each lower level can get what it needs. That's what I understand. It's partial, but it's something. Okay. So that's verse 3, and we're going to continue with the Yonatan Uziel in the small print. Each receives from the one above and transmits to the one below, saying, Holy in the highest supernal heavens, abode of his Shekhinah. Holy upon the earth, the end result of his self-constriction. Holy in all the universes and throughout the endless expanse of time. So there's 3 holies. One is above in the highest supernal heavens. One is below in the self-constriction of earth, and also throughout all time, into the endless expanse of time. Holy, holy, holy is Hashem, the God of hosts. The whole earth is filled with the radiance of his glory. So the difference, interestingly enough, between Yonatan and Uziel, where he says, the whole earth is filled with the radiance of his glory, is Malia Kol Ar Aziv Yekareh. And the entire world or earth plane is filled with the radiance of his glory. Ziv Yekareh, or the radiance or the splendor or the illumination of his glory. In Hebrew, it's melo kol haaretz kevodo, which is usually translated that the earth is filled with his glory, but really means that the fullness of the earth is his glory, which is really an amazing thing that Rav Hirsch tells us of how words work. Melo kol haaretz, it's not that something fills, it's not a verb. It's the fullness of. That means the actual earth, material of earth is made out of God's glory. And then the Targum Yonatan, which is what the Kabbalists go by, and they're both true, is that the earth is a container for God's glory, filling it and permeating it. It's just subtly different, but important to pay attention. The doorposts shook from the sound of the angels calling, and the temple became filled with smoke as a sign of impending punishment, disaster. This is Isaiah speaking, but in Rashi adding that. I said, woe is me, for I am unworthy and unclean, for I am a man with unclean lips, and I live in the midst of a people with unclean lips. And yet my eyes have seen Hashem, my Aleph Dalet Nun Yud. My eyes have seen the glory of the Shekhinah of Hashem, the King of the world. Then one of the seraphim flew over to me with a coal in its hand, which it had taken from the altar with tongs. In its mouth, the angel carried a prophetic word, a message that it received from the Shekhinah, who sits on the throne of glory in the highest heavens. So you see that the coal in a pair of tongs is called here in the Aramaic translation a prophetic message in the mouth of an angel. He touched it to my lips and said, behold, this has touched your lips. Your transgression has been removed and sin atoned for. The angel placed the word in my mouth and said in Hashem's name, I have placed my prophetic word in your mouth. Your transgression has now been removed and your sin is atoned for. Just quite a bit here. As an experience, as a complete transformative experience that a prophet goes through, and he's describing it. The additional things that I'm dwelling among a people of unclean lips. I've seen something that's beyond what human beings usually see. So it's something really to digest. I hope I've done some justice to it, but it can't be digested in one shot. It's just there for you to take. And if you don't have a page that you're taking home with you, of course, I can send it to you.
Why does he have to mention there about the woe to me? Like, it seems that really stands out as not fitting in with the rest of what he's saying.
It's a humility. Who am I to be able to have been chosen to be able to see this, to experience this? I'm just a lowly human being. I'm being shown a heavenly scene. It's a humility. It's a sense of complete bittul, of self-effacement. I may be among my contemporaries. I may be called a prophet, but this is completely it makes you realize how we're very, 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 very simple compared to what's up there.
I kind of also, it catches because it comes right after the Yonatan ben Uziel of the Homer is kavod is like made out of God, you're saying, but then he said I'm so unclean. So like with the realization of Malachoretz Kavodo not was it not internalized because what you were saying like to be Mavatel or like lowercase I, so to speak, but like this word of like uncleanness is I'm not quite.
Okay, so it needs study. In the end, the Midrash says that we might see, you might have a little bit here, not enough. In the Gemara, in Yevamot, which Rabbi Kaplan brings on page, is it here? We're not going to do it now, but because I have to share something else with you. Page 137 in inner space. Isaiah says, I saw God sitting on a high exalted throne, yet when Moses wanted to see God, he was told that no man can see me and live. The Talmud questions the meaning of these statements. If the people saw God and ate and drank, how come Moses, the greatest of all, asked to see God and was not allowed? The Talmud answers, the other prophets saw only their own vision of God, through their own perceptual apparatus. Moses saw his visions with complete clarity, as his ego was not involved. So he goes into the whole thing here. It's page 137, yeah.
There's a sense of gratitude also, because he's being shown despite the fact that
Yes.
because your generation affects your ability to see. So he's saying that even though he's surrounded by people, and maybe technically he shouldn't be given that level of prophecy because of being brought down by other people, he's actually being allowed to see something. Does that make sense?
Yes, and yes. And there's an extra thing that the Gemara brings out, that at the end, his grandson, Isaiah's grandson. It's a whole story is that Isaiah's grandson was Menashe, and Menashe became king, and he tried his father for blasphemy, saying that Moses saw that he said he couldn't see God, and you say you're seeing God, you're gonna die. His own grandfather. So Yeshaya said a divine name of God and escaped, and he was in the Galil, and he went into a tree. This is a midrash. I don't know much more than this right now. He went into a tree, and they somehow knew that was a tree, and they started chopping down, and they got to his mouth, and they stopped, and he died. Because he had said, I dwell among a people with unclean lips. So, whoa, like, strange. I don't know how to develop it anymore right now, but Eliyahu Navi also lost his job because he also complained about the people. So there's a teaching that I just don't want to get complicated about it, but there's a teaching that when you speak to God about your people, speak peace. They're good. They mean well. It's very hard down here. And when you speak to them, you're just a bunch of brats, and you don't know what's good for you. You better get your act together, because you're screwing up so much, it's impossible to live with you. They really mean well. You don't understand. But when Elijah spoke about them, Elijah was told, go anoint Elisha. Yeshayahu was told, even though when I gave you the job to speak to the people at the time, I didn't call you on this, but at the end, you will be called on it that you spoke about your people. Whoa, very interesting. So I call it how Elijah lost one job and got another. Okay. So, but I have to move into another thing now. As interesting as this is, and as important as this is, it's Yom HaZikaron now. Please forgive me, I'm going to read to you something that I will be glad to send as an email to anybody and everybody here. I met a couple in 1972 when I first graduated from college. And I had never kept anything before. My family, when I was growing up, we used to drive to shul on the high holidays. I was the youngest of 6 brothers. We did a Pesach Seder every year, but my brothers just read it and they didn't know what they were reading. They were brought up in Brooklyn, and when they were living in Los Angeles, after all those years, that was the farthest thing from them. I was naturally a spiritually drawn young man, and I loved to. I went to learn meditation, and I tried to search for spirituality. But by the age of 16 and 17, that was before I knew anything about that, and I was just, doing my thing. It took me 9 years until the age of 22, after college, until I met Shlomo Carlebach. And then I met a couple named Josh and Lillian Ritchie. And they had known him already for 10 years and had become completely like Shomer Shabbat and learning Torah. And they were living in Los Angeles at the time. And I had come down from Santa Cruz, where I had graduated from, University of California, Santa Cruz, after going to Berkeley, UCLA, and all kinds of other places. So I was in Los Angeles, and I met them. And Lillian to this day, they live in remote. They're very, very special people and very dear friends. She writes, she teaches, and this is something she wrote in 1994. And you'll see as I go, and I ask your permission to really share something very deep with you that she wrote. She's still writing things like this. She is an angel. She is an amazing woman, and they're an amazing couple. They have a lot of kids and a lot of grandchildren, and they live in remote. 1994, The View from Above by Lillian Ritchie. About 26 years ago, in 1968, I was living in Jerusalem as a young mother. Inevitably, I got acquainted with many survivors of the Holocaust as well as their descendants. I was troubled for a long time over the immensely disturbing accounts of these nightmarish years of persecution and extermination of the Jewish people. Like millions of other people all over the world, I had this pain in my heart over it. I was wondering how the Almighty One could allow such cruelty, insanity, and hysteria and terror sweep over so many countries. I could feel the big challenge it was for so many people to keep believing in the purpose of life or the existence of a benevolent creator. I could sense how difficult it was for so many Jews to keep believing in their own identity and being proud of it. I had listened to a few personal accounts of friends who were survivors who had lost not only their health, but also their families, friends, acquaintances, and their entire communities. They were the only ones left. If I would happen to be just glancing for 1 second on a photograph taken in the concentration camps, that image would imprint itself in my memory and stay there forever. I was at times haunted by the memory of the unspeakable suffering of so many souls, and I didn't dare read any books about it. Then one day in an inner flash, I was quietly attending to my motherly duties in our small apartment in Jerusalem. I saw and sensed many of those countless souls that had perished during the Holocaust. They were floating, it seemed, in an ocean of light, an ocean of bliss, totally at peace. I could sense this ocean of light was connected to the shores of the Holy Land of Israel. That vision lasted only for a flash, but it brought me a deep sense of peace that stayed with me. After this, on many occasions, especially while praying during services at the synagogue or at the Western Wall, I sensed the presence of these souls. Their message became clearer, the warmth of their love more real. Each time they urged me to draw closer to the Eternal One, to trust in His love, to trust in His wisdom, in the wisdom of His ways. They would urge me to remind people to connect themselves to Him, to His joy and compassion. They urged me to tell people some of the reasons why the Holocaust happened, the blessings that followed in its wake, the salvation, the new dawn that is approaching, the countless miracles that allowed the Jewish family to gather again in the Holy Land, the divine protection that encircles the land despite the adversity it has faced and the wars. In those moments, I felt a great warmth and love enveloping me, including all the people in prayer with me. It was like an all-embracing and permeating feeling of being cherished, supported, upheld, and treasured. It was like a yearning call to us, beseeching us to receive the blessings and love of the Most High. Translating these clear inner impressions into words comes easily because they remain so vivid throughout the years, whether I received them 26 years ago or recently. So here is some of their loving message to us. And this is what she writes. Most beloved family, most beloved children, we are enveloping you with love, the love of our Creator, the awesome Almighty One, the all-merciful One. We are here with you, guiding you, inspiring you in the deep recesses of your soul. We are calling you back to your great privilege of being the servant of the Most High, Most Exalted One. We are bringing you the peace of heaven. Please do not mourn us. Trust in the wisdom of the Creator. Trust in His goodness, kindness, and mercy. Trust in the wisdom of His ways with us, stretching over millennia, over eternity. It was our greatest privilege to be called to go through our experience of darkness during our stay on earth, all of us together. For then, even more than ever before, our cry for redemption, for salvation, for mercy became immensely powerful. Our yearning for righteousness, for truth, freedom, and justice were shaking the very heavens. We were crying to the Creator. We were crying for messianic times. And this mighty call broke down the barriers. Even within a few days of our stay in the concentration camps, So much happened in the depths of our heart. Our cries stormed the heavens and ascended all the way to the highest source of creation. Our cry was answered in awesome ways, stretching over the millennia to come, bringing light to the world, speeding up the transformation of consciousness of all mankind. The ways of the Supreme One are infinitely deep, and we stand in awe at the mystery of his plan for mankind. He has given each soul freedom of choice. The world was created for mankind to recreate itself, to grow in inner strength and wisdom and courage and compassion, in creativity and in love, all this from its own free will. When we look back at the time before the Holocaust, we can see that mankind in its ways of ignorance, fear, and greed was heading towards a horrendous destruction through nuclear power. It was only a matter of time. There was no other way to stop the inexorable march of events leading to this devastation. A great deal of mankind would have perished, perhaps most of it. We chose to be here to stop this tide of events. Our calls for transformation and redemption caused a new light to appear. The All-Merciful One could now intervene. This very oceanic tide of intense yearning for divine mercy and holiness brought down the blessings of divine intervention. Somehow, after the Holocaust, the consciousness of mankind softened in mysterious ways. The insane drive for war, the madness of national aggressivity, and was dampened and somehow disappeared in Europe. Somehow the leaders of the world realized that nuclear war was a death sentence for everyone. Somehow they made good decisions. Somehow mankind was protected, is protected, and will be protected miraculously from the vast destruction in spite of all the imperfection that yet remains. We feel so blessed to have been the instruments of this change of consciousness. Our mighty call brought down heavenly inspiration. Our longing reached the divine realms of immense compassion for mankind. We chose to be born and live in this world precisely at that time of chaos and war, to be the instruments of divine light and protection, to be the sign for a need to change in the ways of mankind, and to reach out to the consciousness of future generations. And there are other reasons that you will begin to understand only from our view from above. Every time you remember us in our trials and sufferings, you connect with us. But please do not feel discouraged, hopeless, outraged, desperate about it. Lift your gaze up for a higher vision and deeper understanding. We are waiting for you to feel our love, our loving care for you, and to sense our own deep, immense, and all-encompassing peace, fulfillment, grace, and freedom. We are pleading with you even more than ever. Reconnect to your most exalted, most compassionate Creator, source of all that is good. Please turn your heart to his merciful presence. This is the best way you can honor us, the best way you can bring joy to us. It is also the best way you can bring delight to the mighty angelic powers that are here to inspire you and protect you in this world at all times. Now it goes on. It's a little bit more. Long before we chose to come to this world, long before we were conceived by our mothers, we were asked if we would be willing to go through this intense period of purification and sacrifice in order to bring a new light of redemption to this world, in order to help recreate a homeland for our vast family of brethren. We were asked and encouraged to take this burden in order to free mankind from danger, darkness, and despair. We were encouraged to do this for the love of our beloved one. We were asked to make ourselves its instrument of redemption. We didn't know exactly how. We certainly didn't remember any of this agreement while going through our period of overwhelming darkness during the war. The war's frozen wastelands of chaos and fear, the fiery furnaces that reduced our bodies to ashes. But we had agreed. We had chosen. Have you wondered why the Holy Land is so miraculously protected since our people returned there? Many of us are here to stand guard over it, to inspire and guide its people, especially during times of war, especially when they are receptive. We can do this through the merit of our yearnings and prayers during our stay on earth. Lift up your eyes and see the great changes in the world, the new dawn of consciousness, the willingness in many hearts to discover the new and ancient wisdom of the sages and Siddiqim. Many thousands of souls are now open to receive new concepts, new approaches that are preparing the world for messianic times. New ways of light are being sought. preparing for understanding, acceptance, and compassion among many nations. As more people open their minds and their hearts, wisdom will alight in this world through joy, through a willingness to receive. Prepare yourselves to grow, to learn, to strengthen yourselves, not through suffering, but through joy. Before World War II, the world was not ready or willing to receive our message, to honor our yearning to express strength, intelligence, faith, direction, light, and compassion. So we were mercifully led to leave this world altogether as one. A great many of us will not need to return to this world until the new consciousness has fully emerged upon all mankind, until messianic times are here on earth. Our children are not meant to be born in surroundings of strife, fear, and ignorance. We are not meant to grow through suffering any longer, but through joy, abundant, generous, exuberant life, through radiating light and compassion to a world that is ready to receive. Remember the sacred promise of the prophet: the knowledge of the Lord will cover the earth as the waters cover the sea. Yes, these times are approaching without the horrendous destruction upon earth that might have been inevitable. For now, the depths of yearning from the hearts of millions, from the heart of mankind, are going to bring messianic times in a steady escalation. As these times approach, new doors of success will open for souls willing to love, willing to serve the cause of compassion and light, bringing new intelligent teachings to those who still live in ignorance and fear, bringing peace. Many of us have already chosen to come back to this world, to be reborn in the Holy Land of Israel, and all over the world as well. Many of us are now courageously defending the cause of freedom, of mercy, of justice, of kindness and truth in Israel and throughout the world. Our determination stems from the divine will. Our determination springs forth over and over in every place we find ourselves. We love to express our great destiny of service to our people and to our beloved Creator. We feel most privileged to be of service to His ways. We come to be soldiers guarding the borders of the Holy Land. We come to love and help and learn as mothers, as fathers, as children, as builders, as farmers, as teachers, as dreamers, as mystics, as healers of all kinds of ailments. We are living through God's grace. We are growing from strength to strength. We are walking toward our great heritage. Beloved ones, we are pleading with you to remember your own calling, the great destiny, your great destiny to be a light to the nations. You and all of us are connected as one immense family. We belong to the highest, most lofty, supreme one, the master of creation. All the souls that have love in their hearts are walking toward the fulfillment of the divine promise, the promise of redemption, of a glory and eternal joy far beyond our ability to imagine. Remember our Creator's plan for each of us. Truly blessed are those who connect to the great souls of our heritage, those holy lights of saintliness and wisdom who came to illuminate the path of our people with immense patience and compassion in every generation. Remember their example of total commitment to be a vessel of light, their message of great love for the Almighty and for each soul. Truly blessed are those who trust in the eternal love of the All-Merciful One, who honor each other, who honor the longings of their own soul to express sweetness, beauty, holiness, wisdom, strength, compassion, and light. Truly blessed are those who honor and love the most exalted one, who love him with all their heart, with all their soul, with utmost intensity. So please, let's meditate, breathe together. The last few minutes of the class, to remember those souls not as only as that they died, but that they are still alive, that they are connecting to us, that they're calling to us. And our call to them and to Hashem, the Creator, is to give us the strength to live through these times, to become capable of receiving more and more of this light, of this wisdom, to be able to be there for each other in the deepest way. So in a sense, Isaiah, each one of us, be able to imagine ourselves being called upon to be a prophet to our people. A prophet who's very aware of our limitations and our own stories, but asking with all our heart to become privileged to be able to carry and to hold and to transmit this light, this truth that Hashem wants to give us. Because the world is in a transition stage. And even if some of us have never met each other before and we're all in the same room for the first time in this lifetime, but we should know that we're all connected. And of course, millions of connections with others. And in this little room, let this light shine very strongly into each one of us. And know that it's also happening in other places, wherever anybody is opening themselves up and being receptive to this incredible gift that Hashem is giving us. And it's a hard time down here, and it's dark. And it may very well get darker because there are forces on the planet that want anything but this. We have to ask Hashem to neutralize those forces, to enter into them, to neutralize them completely, to know that they should know that every single thought that they have is known, and they cannot hide from Hashem anymore. The evil man always wants to do something behind God's back. He's fooled to think that he can do so. Please, Hashem, cut off the arrogant. Let them get tripped up in their own traps. Let them realize that they must do tshuva. Protect us with your angelic protection all over the world. Iran now has a ballistic missile that can fly 2,000 kilometers and hit a spot within 8 meters of where they're aiming it. America has lied to Israel and to the world and has made a pact with Iran. And now it's coming out that that's what they did, and all these things are coming out. So the miracles that we're living with, just amplifying the awareness of that so much is going on, and that all over and above all of it is the Creator's plan. And that our desire, our yearning to be part of that plan is maybe what can make a difference. So, na 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 na. Na 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 na. Oh na na na. So practice before you go to sleep, and when you wake up in the morning, the idea that your soul is going up and now coming back. Ask to be able to manifest as much of that here in your life, down here. That's where it's all happening. That every situation you encounter, even the difficult ones, are there to teach us. The emotions that we encounter in ourselves, don't repress them, don't push them away, don't deny them. They're there to help us grow. This is a time of the refinement of the emotions, of the midot, the Omer period. So things will happen, and it's our reaction to them, but we want to be aware of and be conscious of. Don't be too hard on yourself. Look at each other with love. Nurture and be nurturing to yourselves. And then you can be nurturing towards others. Okay. Shalom.